So Kay Ivey, the governor of Alabama, she's the governor of the state with the least number of vaccinated Americans. She apparently has had it up to here. I'd say it's around here, with these unvaccinated folks and the problems that are happening that are exploding the numbers in her state. So according to CNN, Alabama is the least vaccinated state in the country, as I mentioned, with roughly 33.9% of residents fully vaccinated. I'm gonna say that again. Roughly 33.9% of residents in the state are vaccinated, according to the data from the US Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. The average daily COVID-19 cases in Alabama are nearly double what they were a week ago, and more than 4 times higher than they were 2 weeks ago. That seems to be a problem. So when she was asked about potential mask mandates and other restrictions, this is what she said. She was asked by reporters Thursday about the plans to issue a mask mandate or other restrictions now that COVID cases are starting to rise again in her state. And she replied, "The new cases of COVID are because of unvaccinated folks. Almost 100% of the new hospitalizations are with unvaccinated folks. And the deaths are certainly occurring with unvaccinated folks." Man, she wants to let you guys know this, unvaccinated folks. She continues on, we got to get folks to take the shot, calling the vaccine, quote, "the greatest weapon we have to fight COVID." Again, this is a Republican governor of Alabama, the least vaccinated state in the country. Let's go to one more soundbite of what she continued to say about these unvaccinated folks.
And Alabama's Republican governor says it's time to point fingers at those who refuse to follow the science. Listen to Kay Ivey.
These folks are choosing a horrible lifestyle of self-inflicted pain.
What is it going to take to get people to get shots in arms?
I don't know, you tell me. Folks supposed to have common sense. But it's time to start blaming the unvaccinated folks, not the regular folks. It's the unvaccinated folks that are letting us down.
Wow, Governor Ivey has gone full Prague. So it seems that she's calling unvaccinated folks, other folks that aren't vaccinated, regular folks. She even said they have this weird lifestyle, the unvaccinated folks. Don't they usually reserve those terms for like the LGBTQ community? So anyway, yes. It's crazy. But the part that stuck out to me in that last section when she says, when the reporter followed up and asked her, so how do we get them to take, more folks to get the vaccine? I don't know, you tell me, right? Does she really not know? Let's go to some more from CNN. Alabama has received billions in federal relief funds from the stimulus package passed by Congress and signed by President Joe Biden earlier this year. The state has offered some small incentives to get vaccinated, including offering 2 laps around the Talladega Super Speedway in May. Yes, but unlike other states, Alabama has not used the federal relief money for an incentive program. Let me say that again. But unlike other states, Alabama has not used the federal relief money for an incentive program, scholarships, or lotteries, AL.com has reported. Earlier this month, Ivey said that there was no need for an incentive plan for vaccinations. Again, I hate repeating myself, but I'm gonna do it again. Earlier this month, that same governor that said, I don't know, you tell me, she said there's no need for an incentive plan for vaccinations. I think I can ask someone about what they can do. It's not you. So yes, you're right, you don't know. But you were giving an opportunity and you still don't know. You know what, because these are one of those situations. We had Sean Hannity, we had Peter Doocy, we had all these folks that are coming out more and more to talk about how the vaccine needs to be taken, because look, only the people who are getting affected negatively now at this severe level are the unvaccinated. And like, oh my God, all these Republicans are flipping the script and they're turning their opinions about this totally differently. Until we find out that they don't know what they're doing because they decided not to do what they should have done to help incentivize people to get vaccinated. Maybe some educational things to help people learn about what it is that's happening if they're skeptical. I'm sorry, I've rambled long enough.
No, and on top of that, look, you reap what you sow. And back a year ago, these are the same governors who were not just covering up COVID deaths like Ron DeSantis, who's changed his tune on the vaccine, but also, I believe this governor not wanting to shut things down because it wasn't a big enough deal, right? So, it is not a stretch to say there is blood on these politicians' hands, right? Of course, when you do that effectively, like Gavin Newsom in California, then you get recalled. So who knows? Ron DeSantis's career is just sky high right now. But look, I give, again, there is a no cookie segment on TYT. I realize Anna's not here, but I give no cookies to this governor whatsoever. She's terrible, right? This is also a horribly right wing, passed all these anti-choice laws in Alabama, laws around whether or not death row prisoners can appeal their sentence and their sentence to die. Just got rid of those. Like, just this woman is all over the place. But it is such an abdication of your responsibility to turn and like sort of very believably ask a reporter, I don't know, you tell me. Like, you're the governor, honey. Like, and here's the other thing. Look, you could do lottery systems. Again, Gavin Newsom's done lottery systems here in California. You know what helps? Asking people to show their vax cards before they can get into a restaurant or a nightclub or anywhere, right? Like, that is an incentive. If I get vaccinated, I get to go dance, I get to go party. And enabling and giving money to restaurants and places of business to be able to enact that and make it okay to ask for a vax card, that is the biggest incentive. Do you want to eat out? Do you want to dance? Do you want to, sweat and rub up against strangers again? You're gonna have to get vaccinated.
Yeah, this is a great point that if the participation in society is what you want, it's going to be linked increasingly to vaccinations. In fact, if access is what you want to any number of venues, entertainment venues, travel venues, it will be linked to proving that you've been vaccinated. It's what's happening in France with Macron, He's essentially come right out and said, hey, great, you don't want to get the vaccine? Terrific. You can't travel, you can't go to sporting events, you can't go to entertainment events, you can't go to restaurants, cafes, and he's got a whole list that goes on beyond that. And I think that there's an immutable quality to that. That's where we're headed. Now, there's a political aspect to this as well. She's a train wreck down there, I think, and for all the reasons that Francesca noted and Jayar noted as well. And then you have her trying to, stop the bleeding while hiding the football. She didn't use any of that money to incentivize anything. And she's also got COVID cases that are screaming out of control there. By the same token, you have Ron DeSantis, because he was mentioned in this conversation also by Francesca, and cases are screaming out of control in Florida. But what is he doing? He's claiming great COVID numbers. He's claiming a wide open Florida. We've never been cowed by the vaccination lobby, and things are great in Florida. It's the Don't Fauci My Florida t-shirt that he's pushing. And all of that is politics. And again, scream it loud enough from the rooftops long enough, and people start to believe it. So they don't look to see that he has some of the worst COVID numbers in the country. They just see DeSantis talking about how great the situation is in Florida. So I think there's both a political situation here and there's a practical situation. And the practical situation is gonna have everything to do with participating in society moving forward.
I hate to extend this further, but that's the one time that I start sounding like one of these worried Democratic politicians. Because if we have, and by the way, I don't have another answer for it, but you brought it up and I like the point because I fit in within that. But if you bring up the having to show your card and stuff, there are Americans who, if they're in the middle of the political spectrum or they're not on the political spectrum at all, sometimes the sound of that could turn people off and make them think, oh my God, you mean those Republicans are right? They're trying to have us show our papers. And it's a ridiculous talking point, but it sticks with the way we've been conditioned in the country to think about getting out or showing some kind of level of responsibility for your fellow American, which somehow that's lost. So if you hear, oh, you gotta show your card before you go out to the club or go to a restaurant, people are gonna get a little bit upset about that, I feel like.
I think that people get upset about that, but I also think it's our Pavlovian or our sort of like knee-jerk reaction to when there's any sort of whiff of oversight or rules, right? But there are things that we've normalized a lot 100%. That are similar to that. For example, I went into a crowded bar recently and I had my ID checked. Okay, well, you have to be 21 or older to be able to go spread COVID in here. Like these are the things that supposedly are keeping people safe. And yeah, maybe I would argue they
Stop bragging about
are.
being carded at a bar.
But so and the other thing that businesses are doing all the time is taking temperatures. Well, I don't want, honestly, to be honest with you, I don't want my temperature taken at every point in turn. I'd rather, this is why we got vaccinated in the first place. This is to keep one another safe. This is part of living in society. And sadly, in American society, we forgot what that actually means. Is it arming myself to the teeth in front of my private property and shooting at the first whiff of any neighbor coming over to drop by some pie or whatever? Or is it actually belonging and looking out for one another, having a community, having a neighborhood, that kind of thing? We've lost all semblance of social fabric in this country.
Well, I think it really is true that you show ID and you show any number of papers and credentials to gain access into various specific things, and even vaccination passports, which sort of everyone recoils from. They're shown. I'll give you an example. Right before COVID, I went to Africa. I had to get a bunch of shots before I went to these various countries. They wanted to see with my passport that I actually had the shots. It was no big deal. You had to show it. It's a public health hazard. That's where we are. We're coming out of a pandemic. People are going to have to get off of this reflexive aspect to pulling away from having to prove these things, because it really has been part of the culture for a long time, depending on the venue.
I guess the question is, how do we deprogram the way that we think about things to have a normal thought process? I guess we'll get there at some point.
Incentives.